Decision on ousted Cape Town Mayor Patricia de Lille's position is expected sometime today. De Lille, as you know, is going head-to-head with the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape High Court. Tuesday, the DA announcing it had ended de Lille's membership of the party. She's now fighting that decision. Joining us now with a look at the background to all of this and where it might head from the South African Institute of Race Relations, well-known commentator Gareth van Onselen. Good afternoon to you. So first of all, maybe let's step back if we can. Explain to us how this particular issue ended up like two cats fighting in a bag.
Right. Well, the problem is that a whole lot of political concerns that the DA has with Patricia de Lille and the way in which she manages her caucus and behaves as a leader has been conflated with a whole lot of ethical concerns that the City of Cape Town has. Now, the City of Cape Town's concerns, I think, are the more substantial of the two. They involve malfeasance or allegations of malfeasance, of improper financial conduct, a failure to investigate tenders, and that's the key ethical concern. But that's all been drowned out by internal politics and factionalism and an entirely political drive to get rid of her on political grounds.
How strong are those allegations of malfeasance against her? In other words, at what point is that investigation right now?
They're very strong. Bowman Gilfillan, which reviewed all the affidavits that had been tabled in the City of Cape Town, found that there was a prima facie case for investigation. The city has now mandated its audit committee to investigate them, and that investigation is still going on.
Was it strategic for the party who patently want to oust her to conflate those two issues then?
No, I think the DA has handled this very badly, and the conflation of the two has damaged its reputation in the public mind because it's so messy that the public cannot determine who is right and who is wrong and where the line is.
Again, remind us how it was conflated like that.
Right. Well, it's very difficult to pinpoint the exact moment when the conflation became, but it initially started with a series of fallouts within the caucus. JP Smith, who's a member of the Maker, and de Lille fell out. There were then a whole lot of accusations between the two of them. Then this culminated in the Steenhuisen report, an internal DA commission into her, the way in which she'd conducted herself as a political leader. Subsequent to that, these allegations were tabled in the City of Cape Town, a whole different set of ethical problems with her as mayor. And since then, it's just been a free-for-all. So it's very difficult to tell when exactly the public lost track of this, but it was somewhere in the middle of that mess.
But it seemed to gather momentum almost week by week with more and more people joining forces against her.
Yes, it's been exacerbated by internal politics as well. I mean, the caucus is divided almost down the middle. Well, not quite. She has a minority in that caucus, but it's still...
You're talking about the City caucus?
The City of Cape Town caucus, yes. She still has a significant following in that caucus, and that fact obviously leads itself to divisive politics, because you have two halves going at each other all the time.
Why are they simply unable to get together and talk about this without it going to court? Surely the sensible thing is to sit down and work out an equitable plan and an elegant departure strategy for her. Or has it got to the point where she has now dug her heels in so tight or so hard that she simply has a point of principle to prove here?
Yes, I think both sides are now deeply entrenched in their own
completely intractable positions.
I don't think they're going to move, and I think it's long past the point where some kind of negotiation is going to resolve this. But I don't actually think it should be negotiated to be resolved. There is an ethical concern in the City of Cape Town, and that must be dealt with.
How is that ethical concern going to be dealt with?
Well, the City of Cape Town's audit committee is going to have to come to a conclusion based on the affidavits against de Lille that were tabled in the city, and if it corroborates the allegations that are in those affidavits, it will have a serious case to either go to court or certainly to remove her as mayor.
What sort of pressure is this putting on the DA itself? You talk about the reputational damage, but also on the leader, Mmusi Maimane, who seems to have vacillated on this particular issue.
I think it's put extreme pressure on the DA, which is already under pressure on a whole lot of other fronts. It's involved in a whole range of internal disputes. It's entirely inwardly focused and has been, you could argue, going all the way back to Helen Zille's tweets. On the back of the drought crisis, this is now, the nth problem, which is really detracting the DA's ability to be able to talk to voters.
And it says to me that this is a complete failure of top-level leadership. You have a party leader like Mmusi Maimane who doesn't have a grip on issues. Or is that oversimplifying it?
Well, I wouldn't put it down simply to Maimane himself. I think it is a failure of all the key...
Gareth, the reality is it stops with him. The buck stops with him. He leads the party, surely.
Yes, he does. But there are key members of the party that are responsible for discipline. The chair of the Federal Executive, for example, and it would be a mistake to excuse him. Yes. and the federal executive itself and the FLC. There are a whole lot of bodies that have failed to deal with this in a decisive manner.
What happens if de Lille wins?
Well, it's going to be a big problem for the DA because it, as I say, it is a distraction. She would have won the political fight, or at least one element of it. And people will see that as a general innocence, where the case in the city of Cape Town, which is, as I say, the far more serious of the two, has yet to be concluded and is certainly not dominating media headlines at the moment. It's all the politics.
So the damage that Patricia de Lille herself can bring to the party should she be ousted from her position. Already we have seen her, for instance, on a stage with the economic freedom fighters. Others have suggested that she's gone completely rogue. If she goes, how much damage from outside the tent can she actually bring?
Well, I think she can do some,
Well,
but
she's
not that
hell-bent
much.
on seeking revenge here, isn't she?
Yes, well, it will boil down to whether she does seek revenge. I don't think she can deal that much damage nationally. In 2009, the ID got less than 1%, so she doesn't have that much national sway. It did get sort of higher single figures in the Western Cape, and she can cause some damage there. But she's got a real problem if she goes to the ANC. Her whole reputation is built up on opposing that party, its corruption and what it stands for, and she risks compromising her own brand.
But there's indirect damage that she can do, because surely as we start to enter into the 2019 election cycle, the ANC itself, both in the Western Cape and also nationally, are going to use this divisive argument to illustrate that this is a party that cannot be trusted.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to become de facto an election issue.
Absolutely, yes. I think the damage to the reputation, to the leadership, to the party's ability and brand as a clean governance organization is acute, and that doesn't necessarily boil down to what de Lille does. It's out there.
So how does the party fix it?
It's very hard to fix. It takes quite a period of time because you need, the case to resolve itself. You need the legal cases to resolve itself and to go away, and for people to have an understanding of what the final outcome is. Until then, you've got to pick your battles, you've got to win them, you've got to maintain clean communication, and you have to act in a manner that doesn't seem partisan.
As academic as this might sound, should people like James Self and Musi Maimane be vacating their positions?
No, absolutely not. I don't think you can call for them to resign on this single issue. And I don't think it is a resignable thing. I think the problem is confusion and bad administration, but I don't think anyone's done anything that warrants being fired.